Hello everyone and welcome to The Corner Flag, where we'll be following, analyzing and celebrating our African stars. And in today's episode, we'll be taking a closer look at Bafana, seeing as the AFCON qualifiers are in full swing, and we'll be analyzing each position starting with the goalkeeping department. So stay tuned. South Africa has had its fair share of issues over the years of having a complete A-list squad, and we haven't had that kind of squad arguably since we won the 1996 AFCON. But one position we've never really struggled with is the goalkeeping department until just recently. After watching the 2-1 loss to Morocco, where we were bearing witness to the Hakimi show, and all credit to Ronwen Williams by the way, the scoreline would have been much worse if not for his heroics. But he was a victim of shoddy defending at best, and it occurred to me that he's also heading towards the twilight years of his career, and there's a giant question mark as to who will be SA's number one after he hangs up his gloves. This is especially worrying considering the fact that for the past 25 odd years, we've always had a minimum of at least 2 world-class keepers at a time. Off the bat, I can think of when we had Itukune and Senzo Moyua fighting for that spot. Then we had Kune versus Monique Josephs, that was also a thing, remember? And then prior to that, we had Abo Brambaloy and Andre Arendse, Rowan Fernandez and Hans Fonk, and the list goes on, man. I'm sure you guys can get the point. In any case, as much as Williams is a good shot stopper, and don't get me wrong, I do think he is a good goalkeeper, I still don't think he matches up to Kune in his prime. I mean, even our good developers at FIFA gave Kune an 81 overall rating on FIFA 17. And as we all know, they do get ultra stringent rating South Africans highly. Most of them get to around 75 if they're lucky. Even the line of Judah peaked at like 76. So even they couldn't deny how good Kune was, even though he never really got the chance to play abroad. So, we're going to be looking at the goalkeepers we've had at major tournaments and competitions since the 1996 AFCON, which is probably our best squad to date, and we'll be comparing it to the current crop of players we have at our disposal. And starting off the list at the 1996 AFCON showpiece, we had Andre Arendse, who played for Oxford United as well as Fulham, both in England at the time. And then we also have Roger de Sá, who played for Swallows, Sundowns as well as Bidvest Wits at the height of his career, as well as John Tlale, who was the number one goalkeeper at Mamelodi Sundowns, having had a stint at Bloemfontein Celtic prior to that. And then at the 1997 Confederations Cup in Saudi Arabia, we saw the reliable Andre Arendse in the sticks again, but we also saw the introduction of the legendary Spider-Man Brian Valoy being introduced into the setup. At the 1998 World Cup in France, we saw Andre Arendse coming back to the fold, Brian Valoy, who was making a name for himself, now cementing his place in the national team, as well as the introduction of the lanky Hans Fonk, the towering keeper who gained iconic status in the Netherlands, where he spent most of his career, and notably turning out for Ajax Cape Town, as well as the parent club Ajax Amsterdam. And we had Simon Khopane, an experienced local keeper who played for Jomo Cosmos, Bush Bucks, wow. You had a team called Bush Bucks, guys, remember? But he also played for Celtic as well as Mamelodi Sundowns, to name a few. And this for me was one of the strongest pools of keepers we've ever had. The depth in the team was quite formidable. Disgusting, actually, because any one of those guys could have went on, and I think they would have done a great job. Now moving into the 2002 World Cup, we saw the return of the trusted Andre Arendse, Hans Fonk coming back into the fold, and the introduction of the promising shot stopper Calvin Marlin, who was also on the rise on the local scene. The continental competition that took place in 2004 saw only Andre Arendse retaining his place in the team, and the introduction of 2 new faces in Emil Barron, who had a stint in Norway before returning to Premier League giants and Kaizer Chiefs, as well as Wayne Roberts, who turned out for now defunct Santos, Supersport, as well as Orlando Pirates during his heyday. This is particularly interesting because for the World Cup qualifiers that were taking place that same year, a completely different set of goalkeepers were called up, seeing the return of Hans Fonk and Calvin Marlin, as well as the introduction of young starlet Monique Josephs, who earned iconic status in the PSL following his exploits with Bidvest Wits as well as Orlando Pirates, as well as the talented starlet Rowan Fernandez that played for Supersport, Kaizer Chiefs and Wits locally, as well as Arminia Bielefeld in Germany. Consistency prevailed in the 2006 AFCON, where Monique Josephs, Calvin Marlin were being recalled to the squad, and Avril Pali, who spent his career at Jomo Cosmos as well as Orlando Pirates respectively, being blooded into the squad. The 2008 AFCON competition saw Monique Josephs and Rowan Fernandez coming back into the fold to do business, as well as the introduction of South Africa's most decorated and celebrated goalkeeper in Itumeleng Khune finally making it into the setup. The Bafana goalkeeping department seemed to be going from strength to strength during the 2008-9 World Cup qualifiers, with call-ups consistent of tried and tested veteran Brian Baloyi, Ruben Fernandes, Monique Josephs, as well as goalkeeping sensation Itumeleng Khune, which to me is arguably the best crop of goalkeepers we've ever had at one time. And this was especially apparent as the same pool was returned during the 2008-9 Confederations Cup. And now we're moving on to the best event that ever happened in South Africa, which was the 2010 World Cup. 2010 saw the World Cup coming to our shores, with South Africa hosting the global showpiece, which saw Bafana returning to the competition as the hosts. Yeah, this was our lucky pass, guys. We can qualify. And this time around, we saw Khune, who had now firmly cemented his place as Mzansi's number one between the goalposts, the experienced Monique Josephs also making a return, as well as the introduction of PSL keeper Shu A. Bolters. And for me, personally, this is where the cracks were slowly but surely starting to show. The World Cup qualifiers that followed saw the retention of Itumeleng Khune from the original squad, the blooding end of late Orlando Pirates legend Senzo Maiwa, Mamelodi shotstopper Wayne Sandilands, as well as the first selection of phenom Darren Keat, who should have been in the squad for long by now, but oh well, better late than never, right? But unfortunately he didn't make it to the AFCON 2013 edition, although he found his way back into the fold during the 2014 World Cup qualifiers alongside Senzo Maiwa. This to me was personally worrying because there was a clear decline in the number of star keepers we had at any one time. This would also be the last year we had Senzo Maiwa following his untimely passing. Rest in power, King. The 2015 edition of the AFCON Showcase saw Darren Keat showing his class after being drafted ahead of Kaizer Chiefs keeper Nhlanhla Khuzwayo and Pirates keeper Jackson Mabokgwane. And well, Keat was a masterclass, but the rest were a far cry from the depth and standard we used to boast in that position. During the 2015-17 World Cup qualifiers period, we saw the return of Ito Khune to the fold after a spell on the sidelines due to injury. Wayne Sandilands keeping his spot on the Bafana team, although we did see Brighton Mhlongo and Jackson Mabokgwane being called up. And this would also be the introduction of young Ronwen Williams at the helm of his budding career, finally getting his call up as well. Well, the situation is quite bleak. The under-23 squad doesn't have a raw talent on the same level as in previous generations, leaving them to use Ronwen Williams during the Olympic competitions. And with Ronwen Williams hitting the 30-year-old mark going on to 31, there should be a considered effort into mentoring a capable successor. And with that being said, looking beyond our borders wouldn't be such a bad idea. Players such as Jethron Barr, who stands at 1.84 meters, so he's a big boy, and he's just had a brilliant season, earning various nominations for Portadown FC in the Northern Irish Premiership. Getting him into the Bafana setup to play in high-profile matches is one of the necessary catalysts to facilitate bigger moves for players. And this is where the South African Football Association needs to be smart. By helping players with budding careers in Europe by giving them the platform to sell themselves to bigger and better teams, and that in turn creates more quality players for the national team. Right? Logic. That's just food for thought. But that's it for today's episode of The Corner Flag. And if you have any comments on any goalkeepers you think should be in contention, please leave those below. Until we meet again here in The Corner Flag.